Oh no, get the... Dude, I don't care about the all-new Mazda CX-90. Go away. Okay, I guess that's just gonna have to be there for a moment. Okay, so, the tier list videos I've done for Thousand Year Door on this channel so far have been pretty well liked. A lot of people like hearing my opinions on this stuff, and it also sparks a lot of good discussion. So, we are back with an enemies tier list this time. So, Thousand Year Door has quite an ensemble cast of, like, normal enemies, and it has this Mazda CX-90 ad that hopefully will go away at some point during this recording, but this template did not already exist on Tier Maker, so I slapped it together and put it here if anyone wants to like make their own dedicated one. Obviously a lot of effort went into this to make sure that things weren't cropped out and all of them had transparent backgrounds and everything, so it also won't appear this order for you if you use this tier maker template. I couldn't figure out how to get the order to stay in the template, so I just reordered them myself, but if I reloaded the page, they'd all be in like kind of a random order. But whatever, none of that matters. Let's get to ranking. So as far as this goes, I mean, obviously, some of these enemies have like objective stats that are better or worse than one another. So this is going to be very much of a vibes-based tier list, where like I'm gonna factor in, you know, kind of like their presence at the point they're supposed to appear in the story, their design, their attacks, etc. Like literally it is just vibes. And so we will start with the Goomba. I mean, it's a Goomba. It like functions exactly the same as they did in the first Paper Mario. They have one attack, weak stats, you know, like they serve as an early game enemy, but they're not the most interesting. I'd put Paragoomba in the same category. I mean, it's just a Paragoomba. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on him. But I would say that Spiky Goomba is a tier up, because honestly, this guy is kind of based. I mean, you add like a spike hat to the regular Goomba, and there's no downsides to it at all. Like, his defensive capabilities are better because of his spike, his attack is higher, and there's no downsides to it. So he's literally just everything that this guy is and more. Okay, and then Spinia. I've always really liked the Spinia also. Like, I know it is just like 5 little discs stacked on top of each other, but I don't know. I like that he's a rotatey boy. So I'm thinking he's also gonna go B. I mean, the beginning of this list is gonna be pretty tame because all these enemies are kind of weak, but you know, they're still interesting. These early game enemies are iconic. I feel like Spinias are very, very iconic from Thousand Year Door. And then Koopas, I think it just goes in C above Goombas. It is still just a Koopa at the end of the day, but the shell flipping mechanic is like kind of a staple in like the first 2 Paper Marios, but there's just more interesting Koopa enemies later. So, I mean, he serves his purpose. Alright, and then the Bald Cleft. Dude, I love the Bald Cleft. I mean, I love all the Cleft enemy designs. Just making a rock with a cleft chin and just shipping that off into the final game is awesome. I don't know. I feel like the Bald Cleft is a pretty iconic one compared to the regular one. I feel like I'm going to give him A tier. I don't know. I like that he's bald and has a cleft chin and he's a rock. He's just sick, you know? So the Bristle's kind of an interesting enemy. It appears first in the Schwank Fortress, like, pre-fortress things, like the first, it appears in the second out of 3 fortresses that you go to, and it's pretty much meant to be killed with a POW block in the beginning of the game, or super guarding, but like obviously the devs intended for you as a POW block. And I don't know, I'm not a super big fan of the like scripted item use kind of enemies, just in any game really, because it feels like a tutorial more than a challenge or a puzzle. I'm gonna give him low B. He's fine, you know? And now Fuzzies are also very iconic, to the first 2 Paper Marios, but man, they're really annoying to fight early game, so that kind of hurts their potential a little bit. I think I'm gonna give the regular Fuzzy top of C, TVH. And then Paratroopa, similar vein to the regular one, like these are all like, these 2 are interchangeable, these 2 are interchangeable. The mechanic of flipping something over with wings becomes more apparent later, but he just does it fine, you know? Okay, and then Dullbones? How about D for Dullbones, am I right? Like, they're such easy enemies to kill. They can get one-tapped with Hammer, or, like, Shell Toss, or even Power Shell from Koops, and they kind of just are a filler slot. Like, even more than Goombas, like, these guys are introduced in the first, like, real dungeon, and they're still one-tappable like Goombas are, so he definitely deserves D. Okay, and now the Spania. So the Spinia is the green one, the Spania is the orange one with spikes. It literally is just a Spinia with spikes. It's not like as I mean, I guess I use the argument where the Spike Goomba is just the better Goomba. He is the better Spinia, but like, I mean, they're very similar in function. Okay, and now the regular Cleft. See, these are also a good enemy at the point in the game they're placed, because having an enemy with 2 defense in Chapter 2, but also fairly low health, is like actually a good way to teach players about navigating enemies with defense, more so than these two are, because these are just meant to be POW block checks. But I'm gonna place them right next to each other. I love the Cleft enemy design, probably one of my favorite species that's come out of Paper Mario for sure. And then Pale Piranha is also kind of lame. It's just a piranha plant, but in grayscale. It's not the most interesting thing in the world. Kind of same with the Dark Puff. It's just a cloud. I mean, I guess the lightning charge attack is a little more interesting early in the game, but like he's just a cloud. X-Naut though, X-Nauts are very, very iconic. And I think that the point they appear in the game, their attack patterns are fun. I like that they have 2 variations of their like standard attack, like the one where they like directly tackle you and the other where they like jump high up and then like dive bomb you. And I like that they got the potions to make themselves big. Like, it just adds a little bit of interest in Chapter 2. Alright, and now the Yucks. Man, the Yucks is hard. I always avoid these guys when I actually play the game, because fighting them can be annoying if you don't want to use all your resources up defeating them. They're also not as iconic as the X-Naut. Like, they're fine, I guess. I'll put them there. And the Mini Yucks, I'm not going to try to rank this little, like, subservient beast on its own. It's just going to go next to the Yucks. I'm not going to be like, okay, Mini Yucks goes exactly right here in the middle of D tier. See, I actually do really like the Piter. His attack pattern's pretty fun for early in the game. He actually has an overworld function beyond just being an enemy, so that's pretty neat. But at the end of the day, he is kind of just a spider. So I'm thinking top of B so far. This might be a spicy take right here, but the KP Koopas as enemies, F tier. Because think about it. These guys look super cool. Like, I love the gold color palette with the like sunglasses and spike collar Koopa design. It looks really cool. But the immeasurable disappointment when you realize that these guys have the exact same stats as the regular Koopas from Chapter 1 is just, it's soul crushing. Because these guys look cool. They should have better stats. Like, they should have stats like the Shady Koopas or the Dark Koopas later. Also, the Mazda CX-90 ad just won't go away. It's on loop. Yeah, I don't know. It's very disappointing that they made this cool design and even made this one like a cool character and then made the enemy just literally a recolor of Koopa without any stat changes. I'm thinking, okay, this is another hot take actually. I think that Pokies in this game are kind of S tier. I know this is not exactly the best image of a Poke, but trust, there's a rest of the Poke off screen on that image. He's very tall, so the site automatically crops him out. In the Glitz Pit, fighting the 3 Pokies like right after the KP Koopas is actually a more difficult fight if you're like not experienced with the game and don't know exactly what to expect. They can do quite a bit of damage, and 3 of them has an okay amount of health for that point in the game. And also for some reason, they gave this guy like 3 different attacks pretty much, because he can walk up and do his thing where he's like and slaps you. He can chuck a body segment at you, which is awesome, or he can like head bonk you when he gets down to just his head left. And they can also clone copies of themselves and like replenish their ranks. And I mean, it's so many mechanics to chuck into an enemy that only appears in the Glitz Pit and the Pit 100 Trials, but they're a lot of fun to fight. They're a good enemy. Okay, and now the Bandit. God, I don't think anyone likes the Bandits. F the Bandits. He's like a cool enough enemy in the sense that he has a unique mechanic going for him, but man, his mechanic is so unfun. Like, he's really hard to super guard very arbitrarily just because he kind of stands in front of you and then tackles you after like a random amount of time. It's not random, it's the same every time, but like, you know what I mean. I mean, in the pit, when they steal your coins and run away, you have to re-fight them in order to progress and like actually defeat them. It doesn't count as beating them if they escape from you. And like, it's just frustrating. Like, yeah, it's a unique mechanic, but it's a frustrating one. So I feel like D for him. And then I'm putting the Big Bandit in the bottom of F. Honestly, it's just this guy with 3 more health and 1 more attack. Like, he's just called a Big Bandit, but he's not even larger. He's the same size. And I just don't f with that. I don't f with that. False embiggening. And now the Spiny. I mean, the Spiny in this game is like kind of whatever, I guess. He serves his purpose. The one thing that actually I'm going to knock him down for to bottom of C is the fact that they have a move where they just hide away in their shell for a turn, but then they lose their next turn, so all it does is make them invulnerable for a turn. And it's basically like, it's actually like Vivian's Veil. Because when he's curled up in his shell, he's completely invincible, but it also wastes a turn. And like, he doesn't really gain any tactical advantage from it. So the fact that he's able to use a move that stalls the fight, but can't actually like take advantage of that is kind of lame. Lakitus are actually pretty decent in this. I like that they have some depth in terms of being able to hold the spiny egg above their head to like become invulnerable to jumps for a turn. That's a more interesting way to handle invulnerability because you can still hit him and make him drop it through like non-jump attacks. So like, I'm cool with the Lakitu. They're actually pretty well executed in this game. And now the Bob-omb. Once again, like, maybe slightly underwhelming in terms of Paper Mario, but I do kind of like, I like that they have a unique mechanic where their fuse can get lit and then they attack you. It's just a shame that like they're not actually that interesting. It's just a Bob-omb. But I mean, he serves his purpose. His mechanic's more fun than Fuzzy, but his design and everything's a little bit less iconic. So like, Fuzzy's unique mechanic is iconic but annoying. His is less iconic but pretty neat. So I think that balances out. Hyper Bald Cleft. He's like this guy, but he's a little bit more hyperactive. And contrary to maybe what some people believe or remember, this guy and this guy are different enemies. This guy only appears in the Glitz Pit. He does not appear in Chapter 4. He does not appear in the Pit 100 Trials. He can only be found in the Glitz Pit. And then this guy is found in Chapter 4 and the Pit 100 Trials. So this guy being like a standalone enemy for the Glitz Pit's kind of weird, but to be fair, this guy only exists in Petal Meadows, so they just liked to do some weird with the bald clefts, I guess. And I mean, his hyper mechanic is cool. He is the one that introduces you to the hyper mechanic throughout the story. All of these guys come later. Once again, the clefts are just gonna sweep this list because I cannot get over how hilarious the design is and how awesome the design is. I love it so much. I feel like swoopers are a fairly iconic Paper Mario enemy. Not like to the same degree that like fuzzies or clefts are, but like they're okay. I mean, his one attack is kind of lame though. It kind of wastes the bat potential. But if you fight them in Chapter 4 instead of like backtracking in the Glitz Pit to fight these, they do get the ceiling mechanic. They're one of the only enemies that can use the ceiling during battle. So I guess that's kind of neat. I'm gonna go bottom of B. Okay, and now the red spike top is kind of a dumb enemy because it's just literally a spike top except red. It only appears in the Glitz Pit, no Pit 100 Trials or anything. And then this guy, once again, appears in Chapter 4 and the Pit. So he's kind of a whatever enemy. He's not the same as this guy in the sense that, like, he has that badass rock chin. But, I mean, he's fine. Like, he gets bottom of C. He's just a reskin of a more iconic enemy. Okay, now Shady Koopas. Shady Koopas are actually pretty neat. I'm gonna put Shady Koopas in A tier, because the fact that knocking them over provides both a benefit and a punishment at the same time is a really neat exploration of the like shell knocking over mechanic. So I actually really like the implementation of them. Okay, and now green fuzzies are kind of just like regular fuzzies, but green, slightly higher stats, and they have the ability to duplicate and will do it often. I mean, yeah, they don't really change the game a whole lot from the regular fuzzies. And then Flower Fuzzy goes like, I think Flower Fuzzy goes here because I think it's a really neat idea to have an enemy steal FP from you and be able to use it against you. But the problem is that he's so weak. Like, he's just not a threat at all. So if he was actually like a little bit more threatening, just like a little bit stronger, I think if he did like 2 more damage to each character, which would be a huge increase, then it would be a little bit more threatening. But it takes 2 turns just to do anything because it has to steal your FP and then attack. And if it fails to steal your FP, then it gets delayed and can't really do anything. So like, I think there is fair. Like, these are pretty much just reskins of the Magic Koopa in order to create like a cohesive team kind of thing for the Glitz Pit. which I'm pretty cool with. I know I complained about that with the KP Koopas, but it kind of works better with this enemy, especially because it's a reference to the first Paper Mario. So I'm gonna put all these guys. They're gonna go together because they're pretty similar. I mean, the broom is actually pretty neat, so he goes on the top of them. This is the only area in the game that a Magic Koopa has a broom, besides Kami Koopa herself in Chapter 8. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Hammer Bro's fine. He's about what you would expect. He's a pretty strong enemy for the point in the game that he appears in terms of the Glitz Pit. I'm gonna put him... I'll put him above Spiky Goomba, but below Spinia. Boomerang and Fire Bros, I'm gonna go bottom of A because their attacks are like a little bit more interesting, and it's fun to see these enemies translated into Paper Mario. Red Chomp, believe it or not, this like half of a circle and 2 little balls, this is the Red Chomp. Once again, it got cropped pretty aggressively by Tiermaker, so this is how he appears, but just trust. So Red Chomp is just actually a regular Chain Chomp, which appears in Chapter 8, but scaled down on its stats slightly, and it's bright red. So not like the most interesting enemy, but like once again, it serves its purpose. I'm gonna put it right there. Okay, and then Dark Craw. I actually really like Dark Craw. I'm gonna put him middle of A. He's just like a solid threat all around. I actually kind of like the couple enemies that have more health than they should, because they act like mini bosses, but leaning more towards the regular enemy side rather than the boss side. And I mean, Dark Koopatrol is very similar in that regard. I mean, I feel like Dark Koopatrol's appearance in the Glitz Pit alone should rank him pretty high, because the Koopinator is pretty iconic in my opinion. Like, I always remember like dreading this fight coming up and knowing I had to strategize for it. And then one day I figured out that you could just use Quake Hammer to knock him over and the fight is completely free. But like, that experience is still present in my head. I'm gonna go top of A. I think he's really iconic, but they are kind of annoying in Pit 100 Trials, which keeps him from S. Okay, now the Hyper Goombas. These are the strongest Goomba variants in the game. They are stronger than the Gloombas, so I guess they get some credit for that. These are tough to rank, honestly. Like, they're kind of just strong Goombas. I guess I'm gonna do bottom of B for them. Like, I'm gonna do it below the regular Spiky Goomba because his appearance at the beginning of the game I feel is quite important for Paper Mario. These guys you kind of just end up skipping past because of all the backtracking in Chapter 4, so you never end up actually wanting to fight them. And now Crazy Daisy, for some reason facing to the right, even though enemies always face left in this game and like everyone else is facing to the left. Crazy Daisy is a pretty well loved enemy, I guess. I don't know. It's definitely the most memorable one in Chapter 4. I mean, besides Amazy Daisy. The fact that they run away from fights actually does kind of hurt them a little bit, because like, they're not even that strong anyways, but I guess it's a unique mechanic. I'm gonna go top of C. Their sleep attack can be more frustrating than fun, but don't worry, to make up for it, Amazy Daisy's definitely S tier above the Pokey. I mean, what else do you want? It's the classic JRPG experience dump enemy where it's just a giant, huge pool of experience, and it's like a rare enemy that you have to hunt and specifically try to kill. And I mean, that experience in any JRPG is already iconic and important to the identity of the game and the genre. And the Amazy Daisy is just a really good execution of it. It's such a good enemy, and mixing all of the mechanics from the regular Crazy Daisy into this like rare Grail enemy, it's really well done. Okay, and now Hyper Bald Cleft, or not Hyper Bald Cleft, this is Hyper Regular Cleft. You know what, we have a nice pattern going right here. Bald, Hyper Bald, and then Spiked, Hyper Spiked. I don't know, does he deserve this spot? Maybe not, but I do like their presence in Chapter 4. It is just like a kind of good all-around enemy that actually makes you think a little bit about the moves you're using. And then boos are cool in the sense that they make the atomic boo. The regular enemies are kind of whatever. They end up wasting a lot of turns and a lot of time if the battle goes on. Like, they'll take one turn where they just float up out of hammer range, which doesn't matter that much, and that wastes a whole turn. They'll turn invisible occasionally, which doesn't really do much. It just prolongs the fight. Boo can go right there. I do love the classic Boo design in the older Paper Marios. I'm really glad that they didn't try to change or modernize any of the unique designs for Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door on Switch. The Dark Boo does not appear right here. That is not in the right order. I gotta put it behind the Mazda CX-90 ad. Buzzy Beetles are quite iconic. Oh my god, why can't I get rid of this? But Buzzy Beetles, they're a certified hood classic, and I'm gonna give him B. I mean, he's just like a decent all-around enemy. I like that when you knock them over, they get back up the next turn, because it makes you think a lot more. And then Spike Tops are actually like a pretty decent threat if you don't just ignore them in Chapter 4. I'm gonna put it bottom of A. I feel like it doesn't go above these enemies, but yeah, I mean, Quake Hammer is the key, but without Quake Hammer, these guys actually are like a bit threatening. They're just interesting to fight. I think it works. And now the Mazda CX-90 ad is covering the top row that we're on, so that's awesome. Thanks, Mazda. Mazda has made itself an enemy of the Bringle army, which is not something that they want to do. All right, so Ember. Embers are pretty iconic. I mean, Cortez uses them. They're his little spirit minions, and I feel like they're really impactful in the story more than a lot of these other enemies, so that helps them a lot. And they are just like a decent threat all around. I think they're for the Ember. Like, it works really well for the story, and its mechanics kind of tie into that. The fact that you can't jump on it, it's weak to ice and all that. It has various attacks, it has good stats. It's just a good threat. And then Putrid Piranha is definitely better than Pale Piranha, but still feel like it's pretty neat. It's alright. It'll go bottom B. I like that it has like a poison breath attack, but its poisonous attributes really aren't that threatening. It's a piranha with better stats. Okay, now Lava Bubble. Lava Bubble's pretty lame. I'm gonna put Lava Bubble bottom of D, because it's kind of just an Ember with slightly rearranged stats, and I don't know why they both exist in the same chapter, honestly. There's really no reason for it. And now Bullet Bills. I feel like the Bullet Bills in Paper Mario are iconic. I feel like this is another scenario where I should rank the build next to the blaster, kind of like I did with the Yucks and Mini Yucks. I'm gonna go bottom of A, just for the fact that they're pretty iconic in Pirate's Grotto. Okay, and now Bulky Bob-omb. Recurring Bringle viewers are probably most excited for me to rank this guy out of everything. See, this is a tough one to rank, because like, I love the Bulky Bob-omb. I love that he's just a big chunky Bob-omb, and his whole MO is just to blow up, but he's such a low threat. Like, they're so easy to kill before they blow up. I have never, ever playing this game gotten attacked by a Bulky Bob-omb unless I specifically let it blow up or detonated it early. As an enemy, it fails spectacularly. Its design is okay, so that's why he gets top of D. He passes the vibe check, but not the actual enemy that's threatening check. And then Parabuzzy is pretty similar to the regular Buzzy, honestly. I don't really have a whole lot of feelings between the two of them. Now we have the enemies that appear in the sewers post Chapter 5, so here's the regular Magic Koopa. I don't know, he's fine, but he doesn't have the references to the previous Paper Mario like these other two have, so he goes there. Regular Koopa Troll just falls flat when Dark Koopa Troll exists, so he's gonna be like, he's there. He doesn't have that much health, so he doesn't last very long. And then this guy solves that problem and then some, plus he's got red eyes. He's just got white eyes, kind of lame. Okay, now this is probably another interesting one. We'll grab this Spunnia out from behind the Mazda CX-90 ad that's on loop, and I'm putting Spunnia in S tier. So that might seem kind of stupid because it's literally just this, but with beefed up stats, but that's exactly why I like it. I actually really like that its attack is unreasonably high, but it's fairly easy to super guard, and it plays the exact same as the like regular one, but it's just like way too strong. So I've always thought that's a really fun balance to strike, where it's way too strong, but also an easy enemy at the same time. And also the reason that the Spunnia is right here in the middle of the list is because you can actually fight one in Rogueport Sewers after unlocking boat mode. So that is like chronologically the order he appears in the game. This is sorted like pretty much chronologically. And then Rough Puff, honestly, is just, it's stronger than the regular one, but it's also still lame because it's just this, but like tan, and that's like it. Poison Pokies are also really good because, I mean, once again, they are just scaled up regular Pokies. I mean, they have the poison going for them, but mostly they're just like a higher threat. So I'm going to put him right here. They're not as iconic or like defining as the Glitz Pit one is in my mind, but they're still pretty good enemies. Okay, now this might be another interesting take, but Spiky Parabuzz, oh, my browser froze. No! Okay, it remembers what I've done, but it unsorted the rest of the enemies down there. Okay, I mean, as long as it remembers what I've been up to, I'm cool with that. I can just try to do it from memory. Okay, wow. I didn't realize we were gonna have adversity in this video. That's insane. There's actually like a story progression in my tier list video. I have an antagonist and it's literally this website. Okay, so like I was trying to say, Spiky Parabuzzy, S tier. It's such a stupid enemy. It's really dumb, and that's why I like it a lot. Like, an enemy that can't be hammered, can't be jumped on, and has way too high of defense is so hilarious for them to do that I can't help but respect it. It's always like such a top tier threat in challenge runs, like pit challenges, so gotta give him some respect for that, but he's stupid. I like stupid. You guys know that I like stupid. So Dark Boo, I'm not gonna lie, I think is kind of F. It has 1 more health than the regular Boo, and I think 1 or 2 more attack, and that's it. It's just the same thing other than that. And it's separated by a couple chapters, but it just doesn't distinguish itself from the regular one in any way. And now after that, I think that gets us to chapter 7 enemies, so we'll do the Ice Puff. The Ice Puff is better than the other 3, but still, like, not that interesting. I mean, yeah, he's got the ice element, but other than that, he's still just a cloud. Frost Piranha fares a little bit better than Putrid Piranha. Not like a ton, but I'll move him up like here just because I feel like his stats are very well balanced for the point in the game that he appears at. Yeah, the remake gave him an Ice Breath attack that he did not have in the original, so that's pretty cool. So Mooncleft. Mooncleft is another enemy that I might just rank all the clefts next to each other. He just has way too much defense, which is, of course, a good time. He's oversaturated on the moon. Like, he's literally the only enemy that appears on the moon besides the Yuxes outside the X-Naut base. So you could just see like 6 of these guys in the overworld in like every room. But I don't know. I like the purpose that he serves. I like that he has too much defense. So I think we're gonna go Cleft Sweep and A right there. I just love all the Cleft enemies. They're so iconic. So Z-Yux fares a little bit better than regular in the sense that he is stronger. I kind of like that there's a couple of them guarding the moon, or like guarding the X-Naut Fortress on the moon, sorry. So I think bottom of A, and he can get his little guy to go with him. And Elite X-Naut is actually like a strong enemy. Like, I think that they are like maybe almost a little bit too strong for chapter 7, but at the same time like pretty reasonable. But I think they're really good enemies, honestly. I think that it's a good stat scaling of the regular X-Naut, but I guess that's all he really is at the end of the day. But I don't know, I think his color palette goes hard, so I'm gonna put them next to each other. And now we'll do the X-Naut PhD. He's not as good because the problem is his potion attacks can do some interesting stuff, like having a variety of effects is cool, but what I think is kind of lame is that all of his attacks are the same attack, just a different colored potion. He just takes a potion, throws it at you, and you try to super guard it or whatever, and it's always the same animation. So like, I like his little clipboard though. I'm gonna put him right there. So now the B tier is 3 rows big. And now, the X-Yux. This guy fucking sucks. This guy is so lame. He's barely stronger than the Z-Yux. He's supposed to be like Grotus's like personal bodyguard, and he can be killed if you have like a couple power pluses on. You can kill him with the first strike. And like, I don't know, I feel like he should just be stronger. He should have like 25-ish health like the Dark Koopa Troll. He should have like probably like 2 defense instead of 1. He's way too weak to serve the purpose that he's supposed to serve. So ultimately, he f***ing sucks. Swoopula is fine. It's this guy, but a little bit more health, and he can suck your health away. He's kind of just an advanced Fuzzy, almost. You know, he's just like a late game Fuzzy, so he gets bottom of B. I feel like that is the primary spot in this list, at least, to put one that's just like, yeah, that's okay. And now Dry Bones. Dry Bones are like, I think they're a solid enemy, but they're a little bit boring. He can go right there. He's got good stats, he has good attacks, he can duplicate himself, so he serves his purpose as an enemy really well. And now we'll do Phantom Ember, I think appears next. This guy is actually also a pretty good enemy. I think having a reskin of the iconic Ember from Chapter 5 isn't bad, but he definitely doesn't have the same impact on the game overall. So he goes right there. Like, he's once again a solid enemy. I feel like all of my S tier choices are weird so far, except for the Amazy Daisy, but I think the Bombshell Bill and the Blaster, which are gonna go together like these two did, I feel like they're kind of S tier. I think that their stats are right for Chapter 8, and they like serve as a good callback, and also the gold looks kind of sick. So I don't know, I think that they just serve their purpose in the game really well. Okay, now what would be next? I think it'd be regular Chain Chomp. So regular Chain Chomp, once again, not the most interesting as an enemy, but serves his purpose as a threat very well. I think he does it better than the Dry Bones and the Phantom Ember though. I think he gets bottom of A for just being like a really solid enemy to fight. I think the Dark Wizard is the last one that you would fight during the story, and the rest of these are Pit of 100 Trials exclusives. So Dark Wizard's pretty iconic. I mean, this is another really good enemy. He has so many moves that he can use. His stats are really like well balanced for Chapter 8. Like you see him and you're kind of just like, what the f is that? Which is always a good effect. Ooh, I'm talking pretty strong about him for only putting him in A tier. You know what? I'm gonna put him bottom of S. You know what? F it. This is my list. I think that he's just a really effective, good enemy. And now it's Pit of 100 Trials time. This is a much easier one to sort out the order that they're supposed to appear in. We are all sorted. No more Mazda CX-90 to haunt our dreams. Gloomba. I like his name. He's emo. He kind of looks like he got his heart broken. He, at the end of the day, is just a Goomba with better stats, but like, I don't know, I've always found these guys to be more effective than the Hyper Goombas in terms of being a stronger Goomba, so I'll put them next to the Spiky Goomba. Once again, they all go together because they're kind of a set to me. I feel like it doesn't make much sense to rank these above each other. The only exception to that, of course, is still the Spiky Goomba from the beginning, but I think I made my reasons for that pretty clear, and I think they were good reasons. And now, Dark Koopa and Dark Paratroopa. Definitely not as cool as the Shady Koopas because they just have one more defense but don't do the cool shit when you flip them on their back. I'm just gonna put them next to the regular ones. They're just like slightly stronger, so like they serve that purpose well, but aren't really any more interesting than the regular ones. Alright, and you know what? Badge Bandits can right off. F tier for right off. Way too much health for what they are. The stealing mechanic still just is not fun to deal with. They have the same problem that these do in the Pit of 100 Trials, but like, man, I don't know. I hate these things. They have too much health. They have too much health. I don't know why they have 12. See, they have 12 health, deal equal damage to this thing, and can steal from you, but they give less star points than the Dark Boo, which is disrespectful, and that's why he gets F tier. He gets top of F because he's like technically an okay threat, but I hate him. He fails the vibe check. And then Dark Lakitu, I've also always thought that Dark Lakitu is like kind of lame as well. I think he goes D just because it's not that interesting of a reskin. He just gets similar moves and can charge, but like, I don't know why. This one just doesn't work for me being Pit exclusive. I can't really explain it. He just meh. The Sky Blue Spiny on his own, I do think fares a little bit better. So I put the regular Spiny in C. This one has a similar problem in the sense that it can waste turns, but also he's pretty strong and he's like not guaranteed to encounter versus these guys always spawning in the Glitz Pit. So I actually don't mind this guy. I kind of like that he's a nuisance and a menace to society. That might be the weirdest ranking on this whole list, but I don't know. I think that he works and he doesn't. And now the regular wizard, which is the black sheep of the wizard family. I mean, the dark wizard, which sounds like a stronger variant of wizard, is actually weaker than the regular wizard. But like I don't know. I don't know what's up with him. I don't know what his deal is. He's still like a good threat, but I don't know. His lack of cohesiveness with the other two and just feeling kind of strange makes me want to rank him lower. These guys serve their purpose perfectly in the story and in the pit. This guy's just like a whatever pit guy. Okay, and now another kind of stupid take. Regular Piranha Plant, bottom S tier, because it's so funny that they made the normal Piranha Plant the most threatening one by far. I mean, it's the same thing as the Spunnia, where it's just a normal enemy, like that you would find in the early game. Exactly the same, but his stats are way too high. And those enemies just work so well in this game. I think they're really fun. Dark Bristle doesn't fall under that category as much, but it's a lot more interesting than the regular one. I'm gonna give Dark Bristle right there. He's a solid threat. You do have to like actually be pretty calculated to beat him efficiently, so that always works well for me. And now Arantula. See, in my mind, Arantulas are also pretty iconic. They are another enemy that is way too strong. Like, these guys have 16 health and can do up to 12 damage in a turn. So I feel like I gotta give it to him. I remember feeling such a sense of imposing dread when I was like, you know, 6 years old or whatever, playing the Pit 100 Trials, and I got a battle with 4 of these guys. Like, the sense of dread that I felt was something that will stick with me for the rest of my life. In a very positive way, though, because, you know, it's gaming. It's not that serious. Good dread, S tier. And now, Elite Wizard is the strongest regular enemy in the game. He has a very high defense to health ratio. His attack stat is pretty nuts, and he's fairly hard to kill. So I feel like I'm gonna put him in S also, right above the Dark Wizard, because this is another enemy where, like, I remember seeing 5 of them in a battle and just being like small and feeble, and it was a good time. It was a very good time. And now Swampire doesn't really do it as much for me because I feel like he has too much health, like 20 health and recovery, but then also being defeated by Zap Tap, which anyone would have by the time they get to him. Like, he's just boring to fight. I'm gonna give him like bottom of C. He's not a threat, but he's not fun to fight or anything. Poison Puffs are a good threat. I'm thinking right there for Poison Puff. He eclipses his brethren by quite a bit because his attack stat is redonkulous. I don't think I've said redonkulous since I was like 12 years old. That's funny. Like, he does 10 damage, I think, and his poison charge attack is pretty threatening. Like, this guy is leagues above these guys, because this guy you have to beat to get to the end of the Pit 100 Trials. You're going to encounter a few of these. Honestly, I'm going to move Ice Puff up now that I'm looking at this. He's a little bit better. But, yeah, but Poison Puff still eclipses them. And then finally, last and probably the least, is Bobulk. Bobulk is like Bulky Bob-omb, but even more underwhelming. Because if you can defeat an Elite Wizard, or a Poison Puff, or a Swampire, or really like anything else in the top like 30 floors of the Pit 100 Trials, this guy is completely free. Like, he's just not threatening at all. You could early detonate him and only take 4 damage from each of them, or you can just kill them because he only has 10 health and 2 defense. Like, he's so weak. I'm gonna put him right there, but he goes above the X-Yux for the fact that the X-Yux is a supreme disappointment, and this guy is a laughingstock, you know? I prefer a laughingstock to a supreme disappointment, but maybe that's just me. And so, there it is. There is my enemies in Thousand Year Door tier list. This was a hard one to make, because like I mentioned at the beginning, this is mostly a vibes-based tier list. Like, there's really like, it's not really fair to try to rank them objectively, because, like, they are objectively stronger or weaker than each other. You know, like, that's how a video game is meant to be. It's meant to get more difficult as you play. I think pretty much all of these enemies serve some sort of good purpose and, like, make the game better, except for maybe these, like, bottom 4 right here. But, like, these ones, like, I just don't like, but, like, they're fine, I guess. But, like, these bottom 4, pieces of shit. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Huge shout-outs to my Bringle members for being the real ones that are continuing to support this channel. It really does mean a lot. And if you want to get your name on this list right here and get this shout-out at the end of the video, as well as early access to new uploads and behind-the-scenes posts, then make sure to hit that join button on my channel page and you can become one of the members. And aside from that, if you enjoyed this video or any of my other videos, make sure to leave a like and comment and subscribe, because those things help throw my videos into the algorithm and get them shown to more people. So if that sounds like something that you want to help me with, feel free to help me out. If not, that's cool too. Most importantly, take care, everyone.